For the last few days, I've been thinking a lot about how Jesus is not limited by what we think God can do or what we're ready for God to do. So today's 5-minute devotional is the end of this long story we've been in for a while with this guy Lazarus, one of Jesus's close friends. So let's get into it here. Jesus, intensely moved again, came to the tomb. This was Lazarus' tomb, the guy who died, one of his good friends. Now it was a cave, and the stone was placed across it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the deceased, replied, "Lord, by this time the body will have a bad smell, because he's been buried 4 days." Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that if you believe, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Jesus looked upward and said, "Father, I thank you that you have listened to me. I know that you always listen to me, but I said this for the sake of the crowd standing around here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he shouted in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The one who had died came out, his feet and hands tied up with strips of cloth, and a cloth wrapped around his face. Jesus said to them, "Unwrap him and let him go." So this is the wonderful climax of what we've been going through this entire chapter of Lazarus being sick, his sisters sending word to Jesus, "Hey, your really good friend is sick." Jesus staying where he was, Lazarus dying, Jesus risking his life and the life of his disciples by going to a place where there are other people that wanted to kill him in order to come here and first talk to the sisters and now actually raise Lazarus back to life. And this is a glorious end to this story. But you know what? When I first started looking at this passage last week, I was having a hard time with it. It's like I wasn't ready for the resolution, and I didn't know why. And eventually it occurred to me, the elements of this story, in a way, they hit close to home right now. There's a friend that Jesus wants to see, but he can't because he's separated from him because of the effects of a deadly disease. And then finally, when he gets to see him, he's got cloth around his face. It's all too familiar. I have friends that I want to see, that I've been putting off seeing for a very long time. I can't see them, and if I can see them, they got cloth covering their face. And thankfully, none of my close friends died like Lazarus did. But then I've also been noticing, as it's Easter, and we're reading all of these great accounts of Jesus' own resurrection, which you may have guessed is foreshadowed by this resurrection of his friend a little bit before in the Gospel of John. And you know what? Nobody was ready for that either. Nobody was like, "Oh yeah, this is what I expected to happen, and I'm totally mentally and emotionally prepared for this." No! Somebody coming out of a grave? Dude, that's shocking and kind of scary. And I'm sure this was here too. I mean, first of all, Jesus is like, "Okay, let's go visit the tomb." And so they go visit the tomb, and he's like, "Take the stone away." And Martha's like, "This is a bad idea. I know you really want to see your friend, but he's going to stink because it's been a while." But then Jesus does what he intended to do all along, that was just outside of their conception. So Jesus can do things that are outside of our conception. And he's not limited by what we think he can do or what we're ready for. His goodness is beyond that. And I think that's what I'm going to try to live into this Easter season. That things are still so conflicted. And yeah, I'm ready for happy resolution. But I'm kind of not ready for it either. But in the end, it also got me thinking about the way end of the story. Like in the back of the Bible, Book of Revelation, where God says that he'll wipe away all tears from our eyes. And that doesn't mean that there's no tears. But in the end, there is resolution. And He's with us, as I've said many times before, in and with us through all of our stuff that's not great. But He'll also be there in the end, taking care of and making everything right. Whether we're ready for it or not, He'll make us ready.